What's up, guys? It's your boy, the Essential John L. Crossfire, aka The Real Main Event, aka The Rogue Soldier, and today you're about to learn firsthand just what it's like to be caught in the crossfire. But above all else, prepare yourself, because in this very moment, today, right now, you are about to be caught in conversation. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 32 of Caught in Conversation. As always, I am the Essential John L. Crossfire, and this week we have a very fun episode. I thought it was only fitting that, given that we had High Octane on here a couple of weeks ago, that I give his opponent for the upcoming Western Warfare 5 event in Addicus Slain a little chance to have a bit of a rebuttal. But not sorry. This was a very fun conversation. We actually talked for about an hour off air, but kayfabe, brother. The song of the week this week is going to be Notorious by Addicus Way. Notorious, of course, being the moniker of one Addicus Slain himself. Once again, that song is Notorious by Addicus Way. The match of the week this week is an absolute banger, as most of them are. It is John Cena versus JBL in an I Quit match for the WWE Championship at Judgment Day 2005. Once you've listened to this whole conversation, you'll understand why I picked this exact match. Myself and Shane, Addicus, we actually talked about this match off air as well. Again, that match is John Cena versus JBL at Judgment Day 2005. But let's not waste any more time. Without further ado, let's get straight in to this conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Addicus Slain. Generic rock music on my soundboard.
Hello.
How you doing, brother?
Not too bad, man. Not too bad as yourself.
As best as you can in this crazy fucking pandemic, whatever the fuck we're in.
Oh, yeah. I think the world ended long ago.
It's like, we're out of the clear, then there's another strain. Nah, we're good. Nah, here's another fucking strain. You just...
Tell you what, though, the best thing to come out of the last couple of months is not wear a mask for a week. If only for a week. It was fucking glorious.
Yeah, well, I still
could breathe at work.
I still had to wear mine at work because, I'm a cleaner in my shoot job, brother. And we're like, we've still got to wear them. It's policy. Like, if you really don't want to, it's not the law anymore, but they encourage it, sort of thing. And we literally said, we're like, it's not going to take long, and it was 4 days, and it's like QR codes are back, masks are back, and it was just like, fuck me.
Yeah, at work now, pretty much everyone was wearing masks, but now everyone seems to have all of a sudden gotten an exemption.
It's funny how that works, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. They had, 4 or 5 days of not wearing masks, and all of a sudden no one can wear them. Got too used to the freedoms, I think.
Yeah, well, I said to Teague, Mrs. Crossfire, straight off the bat, I'm like, weaning off the masks, it was fair enough because we were doing good, but the fact that they got rid of, the check-in thing straight off the bat,
that was silly.
It's like, fuck, man.
Man, I think that's just the way of the world. It's not even just the government. It's literally everything is just reactionary. There seems to be no well-thought-out plans anymore in really anything. Even in wrestling, everything's just reactionary. Whatever's happened in the last 2 weeks is gospel.
Pretty much. It's like we're sitting there and we're like, what's the rule? Do we have to check in here? Do we have to check in there? And some places were still doing it, some places weren't. So I'm kind of glad that, as bad as it is in a way, that they were like, no, this is what you definitely have to do, because that was a really awkward 4 days. I'm glad that, it only went through for the short period that it did. But obviously, I've got you on today for a reason. It's been a while since we've caught up. The last time we actually saw each other in a wrestling setting, you were kind of hitting me from behind and damaging my knee, but that's all. That's all healed. I've agreed. What's in the past is in the past. I'm not a competitor anymore. I've told management that I'll be professional. We're here to promote you, your big, return, your comeback to Western Warfare, as well as, get to know Addicus Slain and what really makes him tick and all the fun bits and bobs.
Let's do it.
You and I, we actually trained together in both of our respective early days.
Oh, yes, I remember those fondly. They're honestly probably still some of my best memories from wrestling in general. Like, the whole world was ahead of us. We didn't know what was coming.
What's the expression, young, naive, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed?
That's it.
I actually had the pleasure of, myself and Tank at the time. You actually had your debut against us with Sam Driver, which it honestly, like kayfabe, brother, but like honestly, like it was absolutely an honor, especially now looking back at where we've come, like as individuals, and just as we were just talking about with the pandemic, like just where we are in such a short amount of time. Like the world's just gone crazy, so it's kind of an honor just to look back at that.
Yeah, looking back on that match, like I see two completely different people. Like, those two people damn near don't exist anymore, in a good sense, like in an honest, good retrospect. Like, there was a lot of stuff behind the scenes that was going on with life, and I think wrestling was the escape. So to be out there having that escape with a brother that, also needed that escape, like I think that's why everything just clicks so well, man. Like, and I think that's why a lot of people, a lot of fans as well, get into wrestling in the first place. Like it's an escape from whatever it is they're dealing with. Like it might be small, might be catastrophic, but it's an escape. I think it's the best thing about it.
Like looking back, it was probably, the drizzling shits in terms of actual quality, because we were both green as goose shit. I mean, like I was still green as goose shit. I was just kind of starting to come into my own when I had to step away. But, we kind of, when you're out there, as you say, you kind of, you have a moment, right? So it's like what actually, happened at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, because that's what wrestling's about. It's about, creative moments, and the fans, for whatever reason, they were into it. They connected.
Yeah, so that's it. I remember the reaction.
I chalked that up as a win to me.
That's it. And the attack on Team Driver afterwards got the desired reaction I needed, and that was the moment that I knew boos were my cheers. Like, I mean, everyone, like, probably yourself included, anyone, who listens as a wrestling fan, like, you want to get into this business to have that main event match at WrestleMania, to win a title in front of hundreds of thousands of people, to have that moment. But there's a certain point where you realise that you've just got to play your part, and that night there was when I knew that boos were going to become my cheers. The louder the boo that I could get, and the bigger real reaction that I could get out of the crowd, that was all that mattered to me. It didn't matter, how high I went, how far I went, just as long as I got that reaction every time. Like 100%. Trying to trap lightning in a bottle, man. Like I remember, that's the one thing that I've missed the most.
I remember being like 14, 15, and I'm picturing myself like, I'm going to have like washboard abs, and like you're in like jeans, and as you say, you're at WrestleMania and they're announcing, your shoot name is the new champion, and then you get a bit older and you realize that, it's not impossible, but it's highly fucking unlikely. But I remember when I first started training, I think literally like we were just setting up the ring, and all I was doing was I was just putting the pads over the turnbuckles. But I'm standing there in the ring as I'm doing that, and I'm kind of just, you kind of stand in the ring for the first time and you kind of just feel around with your feet, and you're like, okay. And it's like, there's just that sense of, I don't know what it is, but fuck, I belong in here, right? And like, and that's before, before the lights have even turned on. Like there's no one there. Like it's just you and the boys and the girls that are there at the time as well. You just, you're basically setting up, doing nothing, but there's just that sense of, this is actually a thing that's gonna happen.
That's it. And I think one of the first thoughts that went through my head when I first came over, like I remember that night clear as day. Like I was so nervous in that hotel room, like, coming over to meet everyone, and because we'd done the training beforehand, but there was no ring, like it was just mat work. And so, I was so nervous. But once I got in there, like my first thought was just, damn, like this is a ring. Like this ring is essentially no different to the rings you see in the main events of Mania, SummerSlam, TNA, CZW. Like a ring's a ring.
It's like,
Like,
it's a bit smaller than some promotions. It's also a bit bigger than some promotions.
That's it. But like, anything that I've ever seen happen in a ring can happen in in this space. You know what I mean? And it was
like,
just
holy fuck. Like, it's a really bad
it
cliche, but the
overwhelmed
world's
my
your
head.
oyster.
Well, that's it. It overwhelmed me, but in a good way. Like, all the pop moments that I've seen and the bounces off the ropes and some of the moves that have happened, like, that has happened in this space. You know what I mean? It's like, it feels like home.
Until you hit the ropes for the first time and you realize that, fuck, that actually really hurts.
Yeah, man, my ribs were cut up for days after that.
So I probably shouldn't be saying this because I'm technically not meant to be bumping or anything at all. But the last time I was at a show, I kind of, I took a couple of bumps before the show began and I hit the ropes a couple of times and I bounced off the ropes, I think 2 or 3 times. And I was just like, I actually used to do this? Like, fuck, it had only been like, 6-7 months or whatever it was. But, again, it's kind of my own fault because once I found out I couldn't compete, the depression took over and I binged ate like a motherfucker, so I wasn't in good shape to begin with, but I hit the ropes a couple of times and I'm just like, oh, I can't breathe, that hurts.
I'll tell you what, I'm not keen for my first bump back. I haven't taken one, and I think it's going to hurt a lot more than the old trampoline does out the back.
I think once you get that first, the first desired, reaction, and fingers crossed, it will be booze, and we will touch on that actual match a bit later, but I think once you hit that mat and the fans react, it's going to be, all right, like that hurt, but now I'm Addicus Slain again, sort of thing.
Well, I'll tell you what, I mean, it sounds a little bit silly, but the person that's probably helped me the most try to get back into the love of all this has been my daughter. Like, she'll come outside and on the trampoline, come on, Dad, let's go to Suplex City. All right, Dad, let's go. I mean, she can do an international. I mean, she's good. And like, just doing little things like that and just having fun, like laughing. Like, it's not serious. We're just mucking around. And like, I mean, when I retired, I really retired. I unfollowed everyone in terms of like, wrestlers. Like, I kept with the main ones that, I personally like your Australian stars like Jonah, etc. But I really unfollowed everyone. Like, I unfollowed WWE's page, like on YouTube, all social media. I didn't watch a single wrestling match for 12 months.
Kind of checked out, sort of thing.
I think, like, I've heard people, like a lot of professional athletes, like, they'll take time off and they say they fell out of love with it. And I'm thinking to myself, what do you mean you fell out of love with it? Like, it's, it's so-called being your passion since you were a child. How do you fall out of love with something like that? And I think I've experienced that firsthand.
I fell in that same boat myself, and now I'm like kind of kicking myself because it's like, that's, it was only 2 or 3 shows, but I was like, fuck, that's 2 or 3 more matches I could have had, right? But hindsight 2020, right?
That's it. I mean, I guess in my sense, I'm quote unquote lucky in a sense that it happened during a pandemic, so there hasn't been too many shows and too many things that I have missed out on. But just taking the time away, like, it's made me really appreciate again, like, the sport, like, and the stories that just come with it. The first match I actually watched was the G1 Climax final with Okada and Ibushi, and I don't know if half the people watching understood 3/4 of the callbacks in that match, but there were some insane moments from years gone by that, it was incredible. And watching that again, just, you know that itch, man. You know that itch. You just got those juices flowing. It got me thinking. I've started doing promos at work, just in the back dock. I've, started putting movesets together again, and I've really actually started to, think about my physical health again, which is something that I haven't really done for the last 12 months. I've just been dad. I go to work, I come home, look after the kid, and that's been about it. I haven't really taken too much care of myself, but now that I'm getting back into it, I'm, starting to think along those lines again, which I suppose will help the mental health out a little bit as well.
Well, I think that's probably a good launching point. So my first question of the Core 5, which is always the first question that I'm going to try and ask in these wrestling interviews, especially when it's, someone's first time on, and much like High Octane the other week, I don't doubt that this will be the last time that you're on.
That's it, man.
We've got some pretty good stories. We share a lot of passion, but you talked about watching that first match again after a 12-month period. Let's rewind. Let's scale it back. What was your first wrestling memory ever, or that you can remember off the top of your head?
My first wrestling memory ever.
Or your earliest memory?
I honestly don't remember who he beat, but I just remember this guy being in the ring, and he looked very machismo, very cool, and, you know, and he cheated to win by falling down and throwing a chair at the bloke. And
I kind of had a hunch that's where you're going to go.
This guy's something. And that was sort of my first foray into the entertainment side of things. Because, you know, back then I guess I was a kid just watching two meatheads beat the crap out of each other.
It's still
that was sort of that was the first moment. That was the first sort of moment that I was like, oh, this guy's cool. Like, that was the first moment I really connected with someone, obviously being Eddie Guerrero. So I'd have to say that. Eddie Guerrero doing the classic Eddie Guerrero cheating.
I had no doubt that Eddie was going to come up at some point. That's something that you and I kind of like had bonded over, amongst other things in professional wrestling, was that for both of us, Eddie was just like, he was the pinnacle, like he was our absolute fucking idol. And it's like, there's that many people in this generation now that say that it's almost kind of, it's lost its luster in a little bit. And I don't think people realize just how truly special of a performer that Eddie was.
Man, I'll never forget. I couldn't have been older than 11, and I found out. I remember reading in the Daily Telegraph that Eddie had died, because I always used to read the sports section. Daddy gave me the sports section. I seen this little insert, and I seen Eddie's face, and my eyes were instantly drawn to it. And I found out he passed away, man, and I was inconsolable. Like, you'd swear I just lost a grandparent or a brother or a sister. Like, I was inconsolable. And I remember my mum coming to me in my room, like, you know, saying that he's always up there, like, you know, he'll be there watching whatever you do, and all these kind of things that parents say to try and comfort their kids. And, man, it wrecked me. I haven't felt like that for a good long time. It was a long time before I felt like that again. Like, that was the impact and the connection that I had, you know, with that man. Like, it was incredible. It really was.
I was 100% in the same boat. That was kind of like around, as you say, you know, we're the same age, you know, we're 10, 11 years old when this happens. And I kind of like, I wasn't like watching regularly at the time, because we never actually had Foxtel or Star, whatever you want to call it. I was always watching it kind of like at friends' house here and there sort of thing. But I remember, you know, I had all the action figures and the video games and every fucking DVD that I could possibly get my hands on. And I still have about 99% of like every wrestling DVD that I've ever owned, which is starting to pile up a little bit, but I
wish I could have owned that many, but I used to go to Video Easy for all mine.
I used to do the same thing, dude. I remember like hiring so many of them. Like that was a lost like art almost in itself. Like when those stores closed their doors, I was just like, fuck, like so many like little nuggets that are just gone now. But I remember,
like all the 64 games.
Oh yeah, but I remember my mate Andrew came to school. I used to always go to his house to watch wrestling. He's like one of my earliest childhood friends, and he's still one of my best friends to this day. But much like myself and you and everyone else, you know, that I've met through this, the main reason we bonded was through professional wrestling. And I remember him coming, and he's like, I got something to tell you. And he's like, it's going to sound weird, but it's also going to be like, you're going to be really sad. And I'm like, thinking like, fuck, like my first thought honestly was who died, but I was thinking like some sort of family member, right? And he's like, you know, you know how Eddie's your favorite wrestler? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, he died last week. And I'm like, just kind of took a second, and I'm like, no, like I just watched his match at your house. Like it wasn't the Mr. Kennedy one, which was his last match. It was the whatever the fuck the week before that was. I can't even tell you what it was off the top of my head now, but I'm like, I just remembered like we watched Eddie last week. Like you're like, what are you talking about? And he's like, yeah, like he can't be going. He had a heart attack in his hotel room, and then like, you know, I got home and I was like, Eddie, I was like so depressed. And my mum's like, what's wrong? I'm like, Eddie died. And my mum's like, who the fuck's Eddie? Like, you know, she was very much a casual viewer. She never really cared much for wrestling until I got into the business, and now she's somewhat of a fan, but like, she's like, who the fuck's Eddie? And I explained it to her, and I remember, you know, then I went to Andrew's house and I watched, I can't remember if it was the Raw tribute show or the SmackDown tribute show. I think it was the SmackDown one. And I just remember bawling like a little bitch. I was like, no, like, this is an actual thing. This is happening. Like, and the same thing as you say, like, it was literally like losing a family member. Like, and it's like, it still fucking hurts to this day. It's like,
it does.
You
Really
look
does.
at his story and like all the shit that he overcame. And then Vicky recently, I don't know if you heard this because you have kind of checked out, but she recently did a podcast, probably about 3 months ago now. Eddie had like he'd bought like a storage shed before his passing, and he was planning on setting up a ring and starting his own school. And it's like, look at all of like the famous quote wrestlers that are out there now that looked up to Eddie. It's like, could you imagine if they had have actually had the chance to actually pick his brain? Like, just...
That's it. Like, even someone like a Ricochet or someone like that, or even Sasha Banks, like the levels that they, you know, not to say they haven't got to an amazing level, because let's face it, I don't think I could ever get even close to either of those two. But like, you know, just the psychology side of things, Eddie was so good at entertaining. Like, I know the word sports entertainment has kind of got a sour taste in a lot of wrestling fans' mouths, but he was a wrestling entertainer. He really, really
100%.
was. Like, you know, and his comedy skits to this day are still the funniest things I've seen in all of television, not just wrestling television, but like, you know, just all of television. Like him and Big Show segments, like
when he sprayed him with the fucking manure.
So it's just, you know, it's. I had such a connection to him. I truly did.
But like, yeah, as you say, like you mentioned Sasha, like someone like her and like a Peyton Royce as well, like who, they're such good performers, but just imagine if they had have actually got the pick brain. And me and Teak were talking about this. We're like, what if Eddie was still here to watch Dominic like kind of go through his rise and give him advice when he was facing like Seth and stuff? It's just like, you know, coulda, woulda, shoulda sort of thing, but just,
No, that's it. I mean, in that fantasy booking sense, you know, let's say, you know, everything was as was, and he was still with us. Let's face it, he probably would have stopped being full time, you know, 4 or 5 years ago. With Ray coming back and with Dominic and everything, like, how cool would it have been for Eddie to come and do a run in and save Dominic? Like, you know, like, his quote unquote son. You know what I mean? Like,
and it's like you think of Eddie Guerrero versus like a Seth Rollins or something like that, like in this era, and it's just like, oh my god, like it's just that's where the passion starts to come back, because you're like, I know I'm a mark. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, just so many missed opportunities. But Eddie was the one that got you into you know, being a fan. To follow up, question number 2: what was the deciding factor that got you actually into the business?
The deciding factor probably would have just been a combination of growing up with a sister and a stepbrother who had severe intellectual disabilities. And when I watched wrestling, you know, I got a kick out of my guys winning, and, you know, the connection I had was my own. But the looks on their faces when, you know, the good guy would win, it was like, it was incredible. Like, you know, even from being in a manic state and being angry, and, you know, we can't control them, like medication's not working, but wrestling would. And that really opened my eyes up when I was probably 12, 13 years old, to the fact that, no, this is more than just guys wrestling for a belt. Like, this can help people. Like, this can, like, that's where that escape mindset comes into. Like, this,
like I'm feeling that right now.
like, you know, someone's laying in a hospital bed going through things I couldn't even imagine. But they flip on that television and they watch it, and for that half an hour that their favourite wrestler's on, that's all that matters. You know, they live every moment that character feels, you know, every bump, every hit, you know, those near falls, and then they finally get that comeback, and they, you know, it can give people that hope that they can do that too, you know what I mean? Like, there's some people going through insane things, you know, in this world. Like, this world's so cool to people who do not deserve it. So, like, that one wrestling match can just escape them from that, and that's what got me into this.
That's probably the best way I'd describe it. Like, I've been asked that a few times, and it's always just, it was an escape, and they're like, well, what do you mean? And it's like, well, I was a kid that had ADHD and anxiety and depression and whatever the fuck else, and then, you know, started to go blind, and then got bullied for that because, you know, kids are cunts, basically. You know, I think that's the first time I've dropped the C-bomb on the podcast. My apology to those listeners, but this is marked as explicit. But it's like, you're getting bullied, whatever, and then you just kind of, you watch that and it just, you know, whether you've had a shit day, you watch wrestling to cheer up. You've had a good day, you watch wrestling to unwind. Like, it's just, there's just something there that I've never found in any other sort of sports or entertainment.
That's it. Like, it's probably the best drug I've ever had. It honestly is like, it takes you for a spin sometimes,
that's
it's well worth
like,
it. It honestly is.
The best way to describe it, honestly. Like, even like, for example, that's why I'm big on like a guy like CM Punk. Like, look, I drink occasionally. I used to smoke, but CM Punk, you know, so like I don't drink, I don't smoke. My addiction is wrestling, and it's like, that's something again that anyone that's a fan or in the business to some degree can agree with.
Well, that's it.
Like, even, you know, when my dad was, you know, kind of on his deathbed, every time we spoke, though, the only thing that he ever wanted to talk about was professional wrestling, because that was the one thing that, you know, as a kid and as an adult, was what really, you know, like, we didn't have the best relationship, that's no secret, but professional wrestling was always kind of there to, like, put us back together sort of thing.
Yeah, that's it. And I mean, I had a similar experience with my stepfather. Like, we never had the best relationship at the time. Thankfully today that's a lot better, but back then, you know, it was a very hostile time. I was a, you know, 8-year-old child when my parents divorced, so, you know, I was just angry with the world and I didn't like him, even though he took me, you know, he put a roof over my head, you know, fed me, you know, every single day of my life up until, you know, whatever happened. But professional wrestling was the one thing that we connected with. Like, you know, I'd sit down and he'd have SmackDown on, and, you know, we never fought. I never hated him in that moment. We never bickered. It was just us. I mean, the only person that bickered was Mum. She'd come in and say, "Oh, turn that crap off, blah, 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 blah." But, you know, we just, you know, he'd wave her away.
And that's not real.
I mean, I tell you what, you know, coming, you know, growing up and being a wrestling fan, you know, you've always got kids, oh, it's fake, oh, it's fake, oh, it's fake. And it started to get in my head that, okay, you know what, most of this is probably scripted, but the one thing that I thought was real for the longest time was Undertaker's matches at Mania. I always thought they were shoots. I truly did.
Like, almighty, all powerful.
That's it.
It's
like, and that's the worst thing about, I think, today's market is you don't have that figure that, you know, just takes it all away. Like, I mean, is the fourth wall really a wall anymore, or is it more of a fourth transparent pane of glass?
I was about to say it's more of like a window, I think, at this point. Yeah. Every now and then you'll put the blind down.
And I mean, I myself am guilty of that. Like, I mean, you know, I sort of grew up with the generation, you know, used to watch it a couple of weeks behind and things, and then I was about, you know, 12, 13 when Facebook first really become a thing. And then, you know, you started to find, you know, a couple of dirt sheets, and then you'd read those and think, oh, look, I know this thing. Like, oh, this is cool. Look, I'm learning about the business that I love. And that has snowballed into the fans that we have today, I think.
that makes me kind of laugh, because I remember being like 15, 16 and really getting into the dirt sheets, and then all of a sudden I went from being like the biggest John Cena fan in the world to he's a piece of shit, he politics, and blah, blah, blah. And now I'm looking at it as a 27-year-old and I'm like, I don't give a fuck what you say. John Cena's a fantastic wrestler. Fight me.
I've still got my chain gang spinner necklace in my room, and I'm not afraid to admit that.
Brother, I have a John Cena throw blanket sitting on my couch next to me. I don't give a fuck. I've had it since I was 12 years old. I'm probably going to have it until it wears out.
I mean, honestly, he made me want to join the military. Oh, I was very, very dead set on joining the military straight out of school because of his whole military get-up. What was it, like 2007, somewhere around then? He was doing the whole military
around like
thing.
2006, 2007, yeah.
And they also had that, I think I remember playing the WWE video game like around that time, and he had that storyline with the wounded soldier and everything like that.
Tony! The fact that I remember his name just goes to show you like how much professional wrestling is imprinted in my brain. Like, Dad used to always say, like, why can't you remember your schoolwork like you remember this shit? Same, Dad. Same. I wish I could. I really wish I could.
I mean, Well, I mean, algebra hasn't really helped anyone since school, has it?
Well, I think I've body slammed people more times than I've used algebra. So
Yeah, that's it. I don't have to use trigonometry to calculate how to drive someone's head into a canvas.
Shifting gears a little bit, otherwise we're going to be sitting here talking forever. Like, we're doing good. We've answered 2 questions and we're already half an hour in. So, as I say, I don't doubt that you're going to be back on here again, and hopefully we can do one in person in the future. But shifting gears, we've got you here for a reason. You, as I said, much like me, we've already covered it. You had to step away, but now you're coming back. You watched that, the Okada match that you mentioned, but what was it that kind of made you come back to the ring? But more so than that, you also said you said you felt you needed to clear the air of what made you step away in the first place as well. Keeping in mind, this isn't like a podcast where we're going to bury everyone, but yeah.
No, that's it. No, it was just, I mean, no names get dropped because I've got better morals than that. But I mean,
there's a certain company that fucks me over and their name's banned.
I mean, I went from being this fan and as we touched on earlier, training together and just having so much hope and, everything ahead of us. And I feel like the environment that was created at the time with the company that I was with and it wasn't management's doing. They did everything that they could to keep the backstage healthy and, wrestlers happy.
100%.
But it was certain other factors in that. I'm going to call it toxicity because that's what it is. I'm going to call a spade a spade. The toxicity that was there was honestly soul sucking, and it got to the point where, I lived 2 hours away. It got to the point where the drives over wasn't filled with me being excited about my match and thinking about spots and wondering how I'm going to capitalize on these moments. It was just filled with how am I going to avoid certain people and how am I going to, get through the night? What if I have to be in the ring with them? It turned into something that I really wasn't expecting at all in terms of just, I really honestly just went there, did my shit and left. And that's never what I wanted to do. It wasn't. I never wanted to be one of those guys that showed up, did their shit and left. I wanted to be the guy that came, helped, hung around, got along with everyone, stayed back for as long as I needed to, and then called it a night. And other factors limited that, but I'm almost certain that my mental strength is a lot better this time around and ready to just give back to the people that, believed in me in the first place.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, though, because that's kind of the same boat that I was in. I was just like, look, winning, losing, I don't give a fuck. Just let me wrestle, right? It's not that I'm content wrestling, because you should always want to challenge yourself, but it's like, if I can just wrestle, I'll be good. But then it's like, oh, well, this person said this and this person said that, and then some people will actually have the balls to say it to your face, which is like, I respect that, but still, fuck you. And it just, how many times can you be the bigger person before it just, as you say, it sucks the soul out of you, it sucks the life out of you. And luckily, I feel like we're at a place now where, especially, in 2021, going into 2022, that, we have a great environment, we have a great roster. Pretty much everyone, gets along to some extent. And even those that don't, they still, again, they bond over professional wrestling,
the ones that don't are professionals. Right? That's it. The ones that don't get along are strict professionals at the end of the day. They'll do what needs to be done.
I've been lucky enough that I haven't really had to, work with someone that I didn't like. But even those that, we had indifferences, I'll say, because it wasn't anything personal. It was just that, people have different thought processes when putting stuff together. That's fine. There's no right or wrong to professional wrestling. But even then, you're like, okay, we've got a job to do. Let's do it, right?
That's it. And I think one of the biggest things that you need to, professional wrestlers need to have is to go from that mindset of being the fan that's going to have that moment at Mania to being the person that the promoter needs you to be. Because at the end of the day, it's them. It's them or nothing. You can go to a different company, but then you're going to have another promoter. You need to fit your mold and you need to do your job. You don't need to do anyone else's job. You just need to do your job to the best of your ability and get those reactions that you need.
100%. But what actually pushed you to get back into the ring? Was it seeing that G1 match, or was there something else, behind the scenes that kind of thrust you back into that direction?
Well, as I said earlier, the G1, watching that and the story telling me that, I thought that was good. And, mucking around with my daughter and just having fun with it and, thinking up little spots that I could do with her that are safe and things like that. But in all honesty, it was, it was help. I need to help a mate out at the end of the day. And there's someone who needs me and, I'm coming back to help them and we'll see where it goes. I hope to be back full time after this. I hope this is not a one-off thing. I hope to really get back into the grind and hopefully get all around New South Wales, maybe even venture into some other states towards the end of next year. But I want to be realistic. I definitely want to be realistic and say that I'll be happy just, getting rid of a bit of this ring rust.
That actually answered a couple of my questions there, so that's awesome already. But how did you versus High Octane at Western Warfare 5 come about specifically? Like, who threw out the challenge? Why did it become a last man standing match? Was that just a decision made by management? Because you have quite a lot of history, and like most of your career thus far has been intertwined with High Octane. That's
it. I mean, it's it's almost like it's written in a book, really. Like, we can't seem to get rid of each other no matter how hard we try. The challenge was thrown out by High Octane's camp. A few feelers were thrown out. I was aware that he had challenged somebody else to a match. And I believe that I was, in a sense, more deserving of that person. No disrespect to them, but I am the only person to ever pin High Octane at Western Warfare. I am the only person to ever pin High Octane in Cara.
I remember watching that on the monitor backstage, and when you come backstage, I was just like, I remember, again, kayfabe brother, but that was before you kind of fucked my knee up. But again, bygones, big bygones. I remember just giving you the biggest hug and just being like, holy shit, like, congratulations. Like, and even you were like that, like, you recognize, like, for all the differences that you guys has, you recognize, the performer that High Octane is. You realize just how big of a moment that was. Like, you were pretty much speechless. Like, you were just like, you even couldn't believe, like, did I actually just do that?
Yeah, I mean, like, I guess a lot of older guys cop so much flack for, they're not the quickest. They're not chucking out 450 splashes and doing all this stuff. But the psychology side of things can, change everything. It almost doesn't matter how good the performers are. As long as the psychology is solid, you're going to have a great match. You really are. And that's one of the things that I've learned with High Octane. It's a lot of mind games. It's a lot of getting in each other's heads, but we try and make it work.
I always say I'll take a 3.5-star match that tells a story over a 5-star spot fest. Like,
well, that's
I don't know how many times I've said that exact quote, but like, tell me a fucking story.
Print the shirts, please.
But yeah, how did the last man standing match stipulation come about? Was that you challenging him challenging you, or as I said, did management just kind of look at the history between you guys and think that?
Well, once I had made up the mind that I'm going to challenge him, I'm going to come back, I think High Octane seen the situation. Again, I am the only person to pin him in Cara, but I need something more than that. I'm not coming back just to say I'm the only person who pinned him twice. You know what I mean? I'm coming back to make a proper statement with this match. Like, this match is not me coming back for 5 minutes to try and get off a bit of ring rust. Like, don't get me wrong, I'd love to beat the absolute crap out of him in 5 minutes, but I know in my heart High Octane's not going to go down without a fight.
Yeah, well, I mean, High Octane, you look at his history, he's arguably one of, if not the most resilient man on the entire roster, whether just in Central West or in the entire ICW, CPW contingent. Like, facts are facts.
I mean, and it's not every day you get to go toe-to-toe with a ICW Hall of Famer in his hometown, you know what I mean, in the main event. Like, it's something that I do hold a lot of honour and pride with, but I'm also very ready to rise to the occasion. The last man standing essentially comes about because I'm not satisfied with just pinning him again. I'm not satisfied with making him submit again. I've done both of those things. If there's anything else that I can do to that man is to make sure that in his hometown, on a night that, you know, there's going to be a lot of emotion and that means so much to him, I'm going to make sure that he cannot get up on his 2 feet. And that's not out of malice. It's not out of disrespect. It's quite the contrary. I respect this man so much that I know that
you
a big occasion is needed
to kind of, you know, keep him down, so to speak.
I almost look at it like the Shawn Michaels Ric Flair bit from WrestleMania. Like, you know, Shawn didn't want to do that, but, you know, in a story sense, but he respected the fact that, you know, what needed to be done needed to be done. And that's how I feel with High Octane. I feel like, you know, this occasion, this setting, this match is worthy of Emma's name and the memorial match that it's going to be named after.
Because my next question was actually going to be, was it just a one-off? But you've already answered that. Obviously, if you, I should say, you know, if or when you win the championship, you do plan on defending it, you know, regularly or semi-regularly at the Western Warfare events. But, you know, what do you hope to get out of this match? Obviously, I'm not going to say, what's your strategy, blah, 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 much like I said with Octane. That's silly. Why would you put that in a public forum? But besides winning the championship, is there anything on a personal level that you're hoping to get out of this match? Even just respect, because I know that as a competitor, I know Octane respects you, and perhaps it is your own doing with all due respect, but I feel like on a personal level, you kind of dwindled that respect with Octane, with some of your actions. Like, I'm not trying to start an argument here. I'm just saying, like, are you trying to earn his respect back, or are you just after the championship and that's it?
Stopped trying to earn High Octane's respect a long time ago.
Fair enough.
You know, as is known, he tried to train. You know, he trained me and he taught me a lot of things. And he says he didn't teach me everything, and that's bloody right, because I went in there with a mindset of my own beforehand. Like, I am a killer. I will go in. I'm martial art trained. I will go in there and I will knock your head off if I need to. It's, you know, you can't teach that instinct. You really can't.
Fair enough.
This is not about earning his respect. This is about rising to the occasion and making sure I put this old dog down for good.
So you're basically just aiming to make a statement.
That's it. It's more so a statement for everyone else as much as it is for myself, because I know if I go out there and if I can perform to the level that I know I can, that essentially puts New South Wales on notice, because circumstances weren't the same as back before. Like, I now have the means and the ability to show up wherever I need to be. And if I'm being completely honest, Deathmatch Down Under looks like a very, very, very nice little spot to show up to, if I may say so myself.
Oh, there you go. You never know. Put some feelers out there. Maybe this last man standing match with Octane could be a stepping stone. You never know. Like, I appreciate your honesty. As I said, I'm not trying to stir the pot. I'm not trying to get your blood to boil. I want to get inside the mind of Addicus Slain. And I've said it a few times, but I am really looking forward to this match. Like, I've studied a lot of High Octane, as you said, and as we've said, you and I, we've trained together. So I know both you guys very well. I know just how brutal this can possibly get, and that both excites me and terrifies the absolute shit out of me at the same time.
Well, I think the one message that I can give off for anyone who's seen me before is that Addicus Slain is dead. The long black hair, the big red beard, martial art gloves, nah. He's never coming back. This is Addicus Slain 2.0. This is Addicus Slain with a much better mental health. This is Addicus Slain who now really has nothing to lose. And a man who has nothing to lose is possibly the worst being you can possibly face.
I repeat my previous statement. I am both excited and terrified. But Barry Blake sent in a couple of questions. I know you've tangled with Barry Blake in the past.
Oh, yes. What is Swoopy Boy doing? Spring's over, isn't it? Isn't he hibernating?
Now, he brings up the match that you and him did have, and he says, first off, if Rob Messenger hadn't have got involved, he still believes he could have beaten you. I unfortunately wasn't there, so I wasn't able to judge the situation, but as much as I do respect Barry, I feel like being the competitor that Addicus is, still would have ended with a big Z, would have been inevitable, but Barry does want to know, when is round 2?
When is round 2? Well, if he stops getting protected by king and queens in his tiny little kingdom, he can head back down whenever he feels like. That's on him, not on me. My fists are ready to fly whenever he decides to leave his kingdom.
It is interesting that you mention Kingdom Wrestling Entertainment, because his second question was, when are you going to head down to the Sydney/Hunter area and perhaps even do some stuff at Kingdom?
Well, as I said, I need to see how this ring rust goes. But I am very, very open to hopefully training somewhere up in Sydney. Somewhere, probably middle of next year. I'm hoping that I'll be fit enough and competent enough by then to probably get back into the swing of things, because, I need to be able to keep myself safe at the end of the day. I'm not going to be going into matches if I know I'm a liability to myself. So I want to make sure that I'm as clean, crisp and as quick as I need to be. So hopefully I can fit into some dojos up in Sydney and see where that takes me.
Well, I don't know how much you've actually been paying attention on Barry Blake and Kingdom, but he's actually just joined a pretty powerful group alongside Fergus Ferguson. So I don't know if that's an open invitation to you or not, because, he's the president of communications or whatever the hell Fergus Ferguson's group is, and they seem to kind of just run roughshod. So if he's inviting you, that's pretty much solid, but it does make me wonder, because, you've just said you're the most dangerous Addicus Slain. Like, you could just go into Kingdom and you could just knock the president's head off.
I mean, who says we need to wait for Kingdom? I can just go find Barry in the street. It won't take me very long.
That's fair enough. Who else on the roster do you want to mix it up with, if given the chance, in 2022?
There are 2 people that I want to face, and if I don't face them, I'd love to be standing beside them, and that would be Nick Maltino and Rob Messenger.
I had a feeling.
Rob and Nick go way back. We're intertwined as frenemies, I'll say. We've had each other's backs. We've been against the wall, and I think the opportunity to, especially Rob, because I know that being in the ring with someone of Rob Messenger's caliber, talent, and physique, I know that would be a good test for me. If I can go toe-to-toe with Rob Messenger, I'm going to be okay.
That's fair enough. I have my own personal thoughts of the syndicate, but given that I am no longer a competitor, I shall keep them to myself. Outside of that, though, what other goals for 2020? Doesn't necessarily just have to be wrestling related, but what does 2022 look like, at least in the mind of Addicus Slain?
2022 holds me getting my black belt in Taekwondo, I hope. I have contacted the dojo in my local area, and they're getting back into the swing of things in 2 weeks, so I'll be going for my first lesson then. So just I want to focus on my mental and physical health this year. Like, I really want to make this year something that I can look back on when I'm older and be proud of and know that I gave this year my all. I don't want to half-ass anything. I don't want to show up somewhere and only do what I got to do and leave. I want to make, because especially the last couple of years since COVID, like live events and being around people that you care about and get along with, even the ones you don't get along with, like everyone took that for granted. We all did. No matter how much we say we didn't, we all did. And so just making sure I get around a good group of people, mental health, physical health, and we'll see where 2022 takes us.
I would wish you luck, but honestly, I don't think you need it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Transitioning back to one of the core 5 questions, number 3, and it's a 2-parter. we're talking about, matches and opponents and yada, 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 but what is your favorite match of all time, both that you have had personally and that you've seen as a fan?
Best match I've had personally, I think I'll have to do last because it's going to take me a second to think about that.
That's all right, man.
But
you can mention a couple if you want.
Best match that I can remember seeing would have to be WrestleMania 20. HBK, Triple H, Benoit.
That's a good
to
one.
This day is that's an incredible match. It really is. It really, really is. Like, of course, there's a lot of other amazing matches like the Okada Omega series, and there's a lot of New Japan matches that damn near rival that. But as a kid and the age that I was and the time and how long that match lasted with me, that'd have to be the match.
Yeah, unfortunately, given certain, situations, circumstances, which we won't go on because that's a very dark path, that match does, get swept under the rug now in terms of history. Yes. But 100%, that match and that moment after that match, and it comes back as well to Eddie, we were talking about him earlier, Eddie and Benoit in the ring, two guys that are 5'8", 5'9", had no business being world champion, and they're both standing there with all the confetti and just all the hoorah and everything.
I mean, Daniel Bryan had his moment, but they did it first, and it was so genuine. You really,
could almost argue that the Daniel Bryan moment wouldn't have happened had that moment not have happened 10 years prior as well.
No,
I
concur with that 100%.
I could be wrong, but
100%. I agree with that 100%.
But favorite match you've had, or a couple of favorite matches that you've had?
Well, I'm not going to say it was a certain match that I had, but I want to give a shout out to Boz, Captain Ultimate. I think my matches with him were probably the matches that I grew the most as a performer. Because up until that point, I was just in tag matches, in rumbles, things like that. He was my first singles match. And, he got me ready. Beating him got me ready to go to Insane Asylum. And I will throw out there that I still haven't lost at Insane Asylum yet. So that's something I hope to keep alive in 2022.
I was undefeated at Insane Asylum, but then when Tank got counted out, they decided to restart the match. So work that one out. But as you say, let bygones be bygones. I guess shit happens, but I could see that happening because I remember being backstage and watching your matches against Xander Bolt, and he very much for you was what, Parker Gates and a Reverend Diaz were for me.
That's right, yeah. It's the matches where you just grow because, Captain Ultimate was very good in the sense that, he didn't, he was willing to, let me have a crack. He could have put me down in the first 3 seconds. But, whether it was his own stupid doing or whether he just wanted to test me, he went a little easy on me, I think, in the first one, just to see what I was about. You know what I mean?
Watching the stuff that he did over the years, I feel like it could have been like he was testing himself as well because he's a very competitive guy. So he's like, okay, let's see what this kid has, sort of thing.
That's it. And I felt like whenever we were together, it was like, we were never really best mates or anything like that. Like, as you probably know from backstage settings and things like that. But once we got in that squared circle, we just clicked on every level. Like, it was so weird. It was, but it was good. Like, I guess you just get those people.
There was certainly chemistry there.
That's it. You just click. Every idea, every aspect we had, it was just bang, bang, bang. It was good. It was where I grew the most. It was
much like myself and Sam Driver. Like, we were very different people, and we'd be friendly backstage, and you'd say hi, bye, whatever sort of thing. There was mutual respect there, but we've never really known each other that well. But for whatever reason, you get in the ring, the bell rings, and there's just that almost instant chemistry. Which again, professional wrestling, bringing people together, it's fucking brilliant.
That's it.
Who is your ultimate dream opponent or opponents, and what is your dream stipulation? Ooh, that is a good one. And because we're fantasy booking here, we've got an unlimited budget. Book it, pal.
I mean, if you asked 15, 16-year-old me this question, it would have been John Cena in an I Quit match with me going over.
No one's ever made him quit. I'll quickly change that.
That's it, mate. That's it. But, I mean, honestly, I've really, especially the last sort of 5-6 years, it's been a lot of New Japan for me. And some of those athletes over there are absolutely incredible. So as much as I'd love to say, an Okada, a Tanahashi, an Ishii, etc., I think realistically, I'd love to get in there with Jay White. I really would. He's phenomenal. He truly is. Well, the more I watch him go, like I remember watching him as a young lion, and the way he is now, he's just grown leaps and bounds.
So that's a good pick. I'm really indifferent with Switchblade. Like, he's kind of in that Bret Hart category for me. Like, he's so fucking talented, and I know he's talented. Like, he's good, but there's just something there where I'm like, it's not that I dislike him, but like, I'm not a fan either. Like, but that's 100% like, in ring wise, that is a fantastic pick.
I appreciate that. If not, it'd have to be an Australian. It'd have to be Jonah. Because, goddamn.
He's the top dog. He'll tell you that himself, the best over 300.
Like, you were at this show, actually. The New Japan show back in Sydney a couple of years back.
Yes.
Seeing Gino and Ishii go at it, oh my
just dropping
God.
Each other on their fucking heads.
It was the clubbing. Like, something brutal along that sense would be my pick with Jonah for sure.
And what about dream stipulations? Like, is it just the I Quit, or is there like any other like kind of stipulation matches that you'd love to have?
I think I've always loved the cage style matches, whether it be just your plain steel cage, your Hell in a Cells, but I think like a 3 stages of hell type match. Like, I think that'd be, my favourite sort of stipulation, because then you sort of get 3 matches in one. Like, you could have the first sort of fall as just a standard match, then you can go street fight, then you can go steel cage. Like, so I think that might be a good loophole to work my way around it.
So I'm going to fantasy book Western Warfare 6 here. We're just going to go straight out. We're going to have a Cowra street fight, Cowra ball, some sort of local gimmicky name as we always do. And the second fall, we're going to lock you and Octane in a cage. And then the third fall, another last man standing match on top of that.
I'll definitely have that. I'll take that. Where's the Inferno match, though? I've always wanted to try the Inferno
It is interesting, though, that you said a cage match, because when I talked to High Octane last week, upon recording this, his number one stipulation was a cage match.
Well, High Octane, mate, you're the one with the money, you're the one with the means. Let's get it done.
I don't know how we're
in the
fitting a cage inside that venue, but somehow, some way, Western Warfare 6, 7, make it Western Warfare 8 at this point. High Octane versus Addicus Slain. End of an era for the final time, one last time, one final beat, whatever the
one
fuck
last time until 10 years later when we get millions from the Saudi Arabians.
Once in a lifetime for the 8th time inside the steel cage.
Oh, once in a lifetime twice. That was good. Oh, Jesus. Now book it. Let's book it.
One can dream, right?
That's it, man.
But you, like me, this is kind of like a bonus question, but you, like me, you're a very big belt guy in terms of like the look and design of the belts. Now, I know what you're going to say for number one, but what are your top 5 favorite championships of all time from any promotion in terms of the design?
Well, I'm going to just have to do 2 to 5 in no particular order.
That is completely
number
fine.
Number one, I mean, you already know this, so we'll leave that for the last. The big reveal that we both already know.
A conversation that we've had Lord knows how many times, but just throw it out there for the
Design of
listeners.
belt. I'd have to say the IWGP Heavyweight Championship, the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. That's got to be in there somewhere. I've got to say the Winged Eagle, just because of the history that it had. The NWA World Heavyweight Championship. As a Australian wrestling fan, seeing the Australian flag on a wrestling championship was something that I thought was absolutely amazing.
Especially outside of, like, the actual country, yeah.
That's it. Like, seeing that flag on there, like, and seeing some of the people that had held, like, photos of Ric Flair, etc., like, holding that belt, like, that was cool as an Australian wrestling fan.
Don't forget the American Dream, baby, Dusty Rhodes. But, okay, so IWGP, NWA.
I would have to say, as much of a weird pick this is, I just really enjoyed the design back in the day. Jeff Hardy's Immortal belt.
I actually dug the absolute fuck out of that. That gets a lot of flack online.
It does,
I liked both of the custom championships that Jeff had, actually.
I mean, it was a time when I guess championships were becoming more gimmicky and selling toys and things like that. Like the rated R spinner, like, I'm sorry to Edge, but by God, that is the worst championship I've ever seen.
I feel like, though, like, and maybe it's just because we're a bit biased to John Cena because of our generation. The regular spinner WWE Championship gets a lot of flack, but I think we've had this conversation, and I'm pretty sure you did agree, didn't you, that we both just loved the shit out of that. Like, it was fucking great.
Man, it was perfect.
And when The Rock spun it that one last time before, got the other title, I was like, oh my God, he did it.
It actually still spins. Look, it spins. I told you it still spins. But I mean, like, just having that belt, like, I think the only person that made that championship work after John was The Miz, because he had that whole logo with the WWE logo at the time upside down.
Yeah.
So flipping it, that sort of made it work. It was good. But other than that, like, going based on that, I'd have to say the WWE Championship before that, like, the belt that he won from JBL,
the
belt that Brock
title.
held. That's it, man. Like, that was a championship belt.
I don't know how I'm ever going to afford it, but sorry to cut you off. Somehow, some way, one day I'm going to be able to afford that fucking Eddie Guerrero one that they released, the signature series with, like, the flames and stuff on the strap. It's just, that's a fucking thing.
It's gorgeous, right, isn't it? It's gorgeous. It's good. I mean, yeah. Oh, wow, wow. And number one, as we both well know, has got to be Big Gold. There is, in my eyes, there is no better championship on the planet that is more deserving of championship material than the Big Gold.
I was like, I think this is part of the reason why, but when watching WrestleMania this year, and I kind of got sucked in. Like, it's not very often, and I've mentioned this on the pod a few times with some of my reviews, so I don't want to harp on it too much, but once you get in the business, no matter what level you're on, it is still kind of hard to sit back and watch stuff as a fan to an extent, because you're always kind of dissecting on some level. But watching this year's Mania, like, yeah, people shit on it because it has the WWE logo attached, but it's one of the better Manias we've had in a while. But the main event with Edge, Roman, and Bryan, I remember just being so sucked into that, and in my mind, I'm like, what if Edge wins and he does bring back the gold belt? Like, it's such a small chance that even if he does win, he's probably not going to do it. But I'm like, it's just like, there's just that little chance, There's
that slight glimmer of hope. Just think how many it's going to sell. I'll buy 5 of them. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I would love to be in a world where that championship comes back, because by goddamn, if there was only one thing that I could ever do in wrestling before I die, it'd be hold that for real. Because, wow. Wow.
It's like, Conrad Thompson, Ric Flair's son-in-law, he has he's got just a massive collection of all these ring used, like, old WCW and NWA championships, and it's like, could you imagine just having those in your possession? It's
hook a brother up.
all of the wrestlers that have held that actual physical one, and it's like, it's on your shelf. Like, it might not mean it's anything to anyone else, and it might collect a shit ton of dust, but it's just like, oh my God, like, just the history that is basically inside this inanimate object is just insane, right? Like,
in that belt or that object, whatever piece of memorabilia it is, that represents entire moments. And some of those moments are, testament to our time in professional wrestling, like some of those belts would be, especially Ric Flair's belts. Like, wow.
Like, I remember
I'd love to be a fly on the wall.
Even just meeting Brian Cage and getting to hold the actual Impact World Championship and the Impact X Division Championship at the time, it was like, this is the actual thing. Like, it's not a replica. Like,
Yeah,
holy
like this
fucking
is not
shit.
some really expensive replica. Like, this is the belt.
And it's
This
like,
is
although,
the belt.
there wasn't, the same physical belt as, like, guys like AJ Styles and, Jerry Lynn and guys like that had held, it was still like, I am literally holding history. I feel like I'm about to pass out.
That's right. Like, you're holding lineage. Like, you're holding moments. Like, the design may have changed, but that is the world heavyweight title for TNA. Like, yeah, wow.
But the
I
final...
can't say I've ever, like, as a wrestling fan, I was, like, my parents were never really into it all that much, which kind of sucked for me. Like, my first live event was the MCG pay-per-view show in Melbourne a couple of years back. Like,
yeah, well, I didn't go to my first one until, I think, 2015, and all my friends, they were going when they were kids, and I was just like, fuck you guys.
Yeah, my partner's cousin, who at the time my brother was best friends with, like, it was a, small world type scenario.
Yeah, yep.
But every year they used to fly over to America and go to Disney World and go to SummerSlam or Survivor Series or one of the big ones. And I was just like, damn, just take me with you just once, please.
Yeah, well, like, we were kind of like, me and Teak were kind of like salty, like in a very selfish level about the whole pandemic, because we're like, we wanted to go to this coming Mania for our honeymoon, especially with, it's being in Texas. It's rumored that, Take is going to be in the Hall of Fame. I wasn't at that MCG show, so the one thing that I've never experienced at any of my shows, like, I've seen Kurt Angle, I've seen Shawn Michaels, and of course, all the current stars as well, like, Ambrose, Roman, Seth Rollins. Got to see Goldust randomly because he was in a Battle Royal as well, which popped the fuck out of me. And, like, William Regal popped me as well, but I'm just like, experiencing Taker's, like, entrance is, like, the one thing that, like, I'm probably never gonna be able to do, and it's just like, ugh.
Oh man,
it's like, talking about, like, bucket list things as a fan. It's just that one thing.
Yeah,
it's just eluding me.
show. Like, I mean, growing up, like, after Eddie passed, my two favorite wrestlers would have been Triple H and John Cena. And I mean, I got to see Cena's entrance, and I got to see Cena, and that was a good moment for me. Like, not gonna lie, I popped the absolute crap out of it, but even as a fan, like, I love him dearly, but even I had to do the whole John Cena sucks thing just because, it's what you do.
I did that, I think it was the second or the third event I went to. It was Cena versus AJ Styles, and, like, obviously, like, it's a house show, so they had basically the same match that they had, the night before and again the night after. But they went out and they had a match that was just as good, if not better, than the match that they had at Money in the Bank and SummerSlam, respectively. And I remember, like, John Cena sucks. And this little kid in front of me was, like, full crying. And I'm like, oh, God, I feel so bad right now. Like, I'm sorry, dude. Like, I love AJ. Like, he's in my top 5 of all time. I'm like, I actually do like John Cena, but he's against my guy.
Well, that's it. But, I mean, like, yeah, and then, Triple H's entrance was, that was definitely a bucket list moment for me. But when those lights shut out, man, and that gong hit, that was, that as you said, touched on earlier, once you get into the business, it's very hard to become a fan again. It's hard to, get over or distance yourself and put that fourth wall back up. But when that gong hit, man, I was in awe. I really, really was. Like, he has such a presence. Like, what was there, like 70,000 people in that stadium that night, and every single one of us were just drawn to his presence. It may have taken him 35 minutes to get to the ring because the ring was 5 miles long. But, like, the presence that he had was just incredible. It was absolutely incredible.
100%. I think Triple H is another one that, like, I would love to be able to see live, but I've seen, like, Jericho and stuff live as well, so I'm like, other than Taker, like, that's the only one that I really, really want. Like, a Rock or an Austin would be fucking amazing too as well. Like,
of course,
hearing the If You Smell or the Glass Shatter, but, like, as you say, like, there's just something about Taker's, like entrance that even just watching on TV, you get the goosebumps, and he takes 10 hours to walk to the ring, and you're like, I don't even care. Like, this is just, it's fucking amazing.
That's it. Like, he doesn't say a single word, but he's got more charisma than most people have.
Oh, 110%.
In his small finger than they do in their entire body. Like
even just,
and that's where that whole psychology comes back to it. Like,
when he pauses to take
the years
the
of dedication
stuff off as well. Like,
That's it, man. Like, like most people as kids, like everyone used to do the eye roll. So when he did it, it was intense.
Especially like when like he was angry and he'd do like the throat slash sign that he does for the tombstone, but he'd have the eyes rolling, the tongue would be hanging out, and there'd be like saliva and shit dripping.
Veins are popping out of his neck, and you're just like, oh my God.
Like, I am fucking terrified right now.
That's it, man. That's it.
But final question. And I always end these with the last of the core five. It's always a non-wrestling question. Just kind of have like a fun fact for the listeners. You, like me, you're a Parramatta Eels supporter, you poor soul. yes. Been a hard life, sport-wise. Who is your all-time favourite Eels player, or just all-time favourite rugby player in general?
Oh shit, you're going to make me go there. Oh, no. Oh, no.
Trust me, it was actually really hard finding this question because I had like all these other questions that I wanted to ask you, but they were all like wrestling centered. And I'm like, no, the whole gimmick is I ended on a non-wrestling question.
All-time Parramatta. Oh, man, that's so hard. Like, I could just go by a year and that'd still be hard. Wow.
I mean, you can throw out a couple of names that kind of pop out if you want.
Oh, well, first and foremost, we've got to go with Mick Cronin because he's an absolute fucking legend. I met him last year and he was the nicest bloke I've ever met. The poor bugger, he must have thought I was stalking him. I'd seen him out the front and I thought I recognised him and I said to Dad, I said, who's that? He goes, it's Mick Cronin. So I got a photo with him and then we were sitting 2 seats away from him in the stadium. I bumped into him at the bar about 3 times and the last time I bumped into him was in the bathroom.
That's like me at the World Series shows. Like I bumped into X Park like 3 times. I bumped into both the Briscoes, and I'm just like, I swear I'm not fucking stalking you.
Yeah, I swear to God I'm not following you. Well, actually, I had a little running moment like that at New Japan. I got to see the Young Bucks. They were going around doing shirts and everything at New Japan just before the show started.
Yeah, that's the first time I met them. I met them 3 times because I'm a fucking mark. No, so it was the second time. The first time was House of Hardcore in 2017. But I was like, literally, I was walking to like one of the merch lines and for some reason they had like a couple of different merch ones as they always do. But one of them was like the main one. And they're like, oh, head down this door. Because I was after that Bullet Club shirt with the Australian flag on it. Still to this day, haven't got that shirt. But I'm like, okay, cool. Turn left here. And I'm like, that dude really looks like Nick Jackson. That guy looks like Matt Jackson. Oh, fuck, it actually is the Young Bucks because they were like, they hadn't, like, they were literally setting up, like, as I was walking past. So there was, like, 2 people, and I'm just like, hello there. Like, and then I sat back in my seat, and I remember Hellfire. I'm like, hey, the Young Bucks are over there. And he's like, no, they're not. And I'm like, oh, yeah, really? Showed him the photo, and then my mate, who he did the meet and greet beforehand with the VIP, he met pretty much everyone, like, except for the Young Bucks because they were kind of
no.
And then I was like, oh yeah, I just literally walked straight up to the Young Bucks and he's like, what the fuck? Because he had like way better seats than we did and I'm like, yeah, I had the nosebleeds but I got to meet the Young Bucks so fuck you.
Yeah, so who really wins at the end of the day? But no, go back to your question. So it'd definitely have to be Mick Cronin to definitely be up there. Nathan Highmarsh should definitely be up there. And, I mean, there is someone else who I would have chucked up in that category, but for other reasons has been completely banished from that side of things.
Oh, I think I have a hunch of...
yes, I believe...
A certain mode of transport.
That's the one.
It used to fly in the sky and it crashed and burned.
Yep. Oh, it definitely did. It had a dream, and that was it.
I believe it was also referred to as a train at some point, and if that's the case, it's derailed.
But these days, I definitely have to say the King Gutho. Like, I've met him twice. I've been fortunate enough to meet him twice, and both times I've met him, he's been an absolute gentleman. He really seems like he cares about the club, and there was a long period there where the Eels were going through an identity crisis. We didn't know who the hell we were. We had coaches going out left, right and centre. We had scandal after scandal. I think there was one year where like 14 out of our top 25 were dismissed and moved on in the 1 year. Like, there was a lot of rebuilding, and to have Gutho and, you know, players like Mitchy Moses, like the new breed of eel, like, yeah, they're definitely up there now for me. They're in that category. They may not have won the comp yet, but they're up there.
Yeah, I remember the only player I've actually met was Luke Burt, and he was like really nice. Like, poor bastard was just getting fucking swarmed. He's just trying to get into the stadium. And I remember I got my photo with him. It was awesome. He signed my Eels flag, which is around here somewhere. And that was the game where he missed the kick right from front against the Tigers.
Oh,
so I was like, no. I missed Luke Burt. Yeah. I was like, I met Luke Burt, and then he misses the kick, and I was like, oh. And of course, you know, my mum is a Tigers supporter, so me and my brother, we didn't hear the fucking end of it all the way home, but I just remember being so excited. And then he missed that kick from right in front, and I was just like, no.
I only imagine how my dad felt. My dad's obviously a Parramatta Eels fan, and my mum's a Newcastle Knights supporter.
Oh,
and in 2001, my dad
Joel
went
Southgate
down to the pub at halftime. At halftime, my dad went down to the pub and put like $3,000 on the Eels to win, knowing full well they were only paying like $1 something, like they were destined to win. Oops. Don't gamble, kids. Don't gamble. It's not worth it.
Gamble responsibly.
Nothing's a sure thing unless it's me against High Octane at Western Warfare 5.
That is
gamble responsibly.
That is a perfect little segue to wrap things up. Did you have any social media or merch or anything you wanted to plug?
I will be redoing my Instagram page very soon, so I currently don't have an Instagram page, but I will quickly plug the Addicus Slain Facebook page. That should hopefully get an admin of some description up and running it soon. Look out for things to come in 2022.
Slain section. I found that out last night because I was trying to tag you and it wouldn't let me, so I had to literally go find your actual official username like I would on Twitter because my Facebook was being but that's at Slain section, all one word. Do you have any last words for High Octane heading into Western Warfare 5?
Train hard, buddy. Spend time with your lovely family. Spend time with your lovely mother because you're not going to be able to do too much for a while longer, mate. Sorry about that.
Very harsh words. I don't even know how to wrap that up after that, but as of this recording, I have away there now someone that I know. He's a pretty cool guy. He's going to be giving me a lift there, and I may or may not have a gift for both yourself and High Octane. Whether or not the two of you use said gift or gifts is entirely up to you, but it's a last man standing match, and I just really want to encourage violence. Again, I'm excited. I'm terrified.
Well, I'm worried about Octane in that sense. He doesn't exactly exhibit violence or exude violence. He's very respectful. Me, on the other hand, I'm a killer. I'm coming to do my job. Last man standing. I'll definitely be the last man standing.
In all honesty, though, like, you know, we've had our differences outside or inside the ring, I should say. Outside the ring, you honestly, you have been one of my best friends, kayfabe, brother. But it's been an honor being able to catch up with you, dude. Thanks for coming on to the podcast, especially with such short notice. But I thought, I just had Octane on. I've got to have two sides of the story. I've got to try and be a decent-ish journalist.
Well, mate, you're already doing more than 3/4 of the journalist scoreboard.
Well, I shall see you in Cowra. I look forward to seeing that match. Like, I cannot stress that enough, guys. January 6th, I believe. Tickets on sale online. Follow all the
That's it, or available from the Cowra Civic Centre box office.
Go follow all the ICW Central West.
It's for a worthwhile cause. All money raised, except for the booking fee and venue fee, will go towards the Emma Butler charity for tongue cancer. So everyone get around. It's an awesome awesome event, awesome cause. There's, no reason to sit at home and do nothing. Get out, support the local wrestling, and support a local charity.
And so far, along with that last man standing match, we also have Benny the Back Rower versus Super Crimson Mask, and one that I'm personally looking forward to, Jake Gibson versus Birdman. Now,
that's going to be a classic, I think. I think that's going to be a good old-fashioned slugfest. So I'm very, very excited to see that match myself.
But I wish you nothing but the best. Happy New Year, seeing as how this is being recorded just a few days before the New Year, even though it won't go out until next week. But Happy New Year to yourself, your family, Atticus, Shane, same. I look forward to seeing you.
Thank you very much. And I look forward to seeing you as well. You and your beautiful wife take good care. Enjoy 2022 as a married couple. And we'll catch up soon, my friend.
And ladies and gentlemen, that was Addicus Slain. More generic rock music. That was my conversation with Addicus Slain, aka my mate Shane. Really hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did talking to him, much like I did High Octane a couple of weeks ago. I look forward to many more of these conversations with various people all across the country within the realm of professional wrestling, whether it's actual workers or even super fans. You never know who might show up. But as always, check the links in the description box below, because I will be linking the ICW Central West Facebook page, so that way you guys can take a better look at when tickets do go on sale on the 6th of January and just keep up to date with all of the action. Once again, the song of the week was Notorious by Addicus Way. The match of the week was John Cena versus JBL in the I Quit match at Judgment Day 2005. I am the Essential John L. Crossfire. One more time, that was the Notorious Addicus Slain. I really look forward to High Octane versus Addicus Slain in the Last Man Standing match. Thank you guys for listening. As always, you were just caught in conversation. Check the links below.